Welcome to the second best of 5 of the evening. We're on Echo, spawning to the bottom right hand corner in blue. Playing Terran for Euronics Gaming and Austria. It's Sylvanas. Or as her account is showing, Sylvanas. And to the top left hand corner in purple. Playing Zerg for Marisk and Germany. It's Schnubiiii. Oh, and she has a cute cardboard decal for her base. It's the Derpfester and the Hellion play car. Always so funny. Okay, actually I think the most funny episode of all, I think it's episode 6 of the first season of cardboard animation Starcrafts, where the Derpfester just neural parasites the Hellion and then just plays around with it. That's so funny. I think the name of the episode is A Hellion of Harass, if I remember that correctly. But yeah, such a funny episode. If you haven't watched cardboard cardboard animations Starcraft, go watch it. It's just a fantastic series. So, typical opening by Sylvanas here just goes into Reaper, and then the command center right behind... No, not a... What? Where is it? Where's the other command center? Am I just... What? What the hell? Oh no, it's just the orbital command, never mind. Yeah, it's just morphing over here, but yeah, there's the command center. I was just wondering, I was so focused on there must be a command center that I unfortunately just misinterpreted that little picture over here, because I was already expecting the command center to come here. I mean, we've seen Sylvanas play so many games throughout Season 1 and Season 2, and this is just her typical go-to opening in TvZ. Not only hers, but that of a lot of Terran players. So yeah, something we could actually just expect her to see. Unfortunately, due to patch 3.9, the GameHard overview now just, or the GameHard overlay just has some problems showing some units correctly, so we will just have to live with that. But yeah, not too problematic. I can always just have a look at what's really going on up there. So Schnubiiii just realizes what's on, sees that the base is already out, already has some lings in position, just wants to get rid of that pesky Reaper here, doesn't want to lose too many Zerglings over here, but the most important thing, of course, is to keep that Reaper away from her own precious drones until the Queen finally finishes and comes out. Sylvanas still tries to make the best out of her Reaper. She didn't really get that much information, but she can of course always use this Reaper stair over here in order to get inside the main base and get some more scouting information. We'll probably do so a little bit later here. Most important for her is whether her opponent has already taken a third base or not. With Schnubiiii, it's not so... with Schnubiiii, it's not so common that she just takes an early third. She prefers to play a little bit more passive, prefers to just set up her buildings, or set up her, or just to saturate her mineral lines she's already using, before then getting into a third base. So she just wants to have all her bases saturated and then maybe getting into a third base. She also would like to have a few units usually to just fend off early harassment she might or might not be aware of coming. So she already has some overlords out, just has a check on the third base over here, still has an overlord hanging over here, so she might be able to just fly in a little bit later in order to get some more information. So Sylvanas in the meantime going into a Hellion her push with the one Reaper ahead, so she will just try to deal some more damage. She will probably not be able to do much. I mean, there's the Queen already here, but we also have a Banshee follow-up with Cloak. And that, of course, could be quite interesting. In the meantime, we have Schnubiiii trying to take a third base over here. Actually, I like this a lot. It's a little bit earlier than usual for her, at least from what we've seen in the early games. So just has to save her lings, doesn't really want to sacrifice them all into the Hellions here. And now it's only one Queen, well, the second Queen as well, and some more lings in here. I feel like the bigger problem, actually, is that she's totally unaware of the possibilities of Banshees here. She doesn't even have Spore Crawlers inside her mineral lines, and the first Banshee is now out, crossing the map already. And this might cause a lot of problems here already. There's not even a lair on the way. So movable detection really is a problem, and she will even not have the possibility to secure this base with a spore crawler. Well, it will be done in just a few seconds, and then she might be able to at least build it. But if it's ever going to go through is another question here. And actually, Sylvanas doesn't really want to get into the third base. She rather would like to harass her opponent at the natural base. It seems there's not really that many drones to kill. And Schnubiiii is just going for a counter-attack here after having avoided most of these Hellions over here. But she only arrives at the natural base with mostly Lings. Will not be able to actually crush through. In the meantime, we have the harassment going on at the natural base. Schnubiiii just realizes what's going on, puts down a spore crawler here, but it's going to take some time. In the meantime, the good thing actually is that Sylvanas is too busy preparing her own front, not being busted, that she isn't really taking care of that Banshee here. Totally missing that a spore crawler is going to finish in just a few seconds. So at least Schnubiiii will get that up. Whoa, now Sylvanas finally realizes what's going on, just moves out right in the last second. So maybe I was actually just misinterpreting this. So Schnubiiii tries to get through this ramp with Baneling busts. Yeah, even counter repair won't really help here. But in the meantime, we have the Banshee just trying to kill as many of the reinforcements that she's capable to get. Ooh, actually this really proved as a problematic move here. But most of these SCVs not get killed. A few Banelings unfortunately just crush into the orbital command, being mostly wasted, and the rest of the army gets mostly cleared up by this Banshee hanging in the sky. So Schnubiiii now decides to move backwards after having seen that her opponent has not taken a third base, and she's still on her third and might be able to just replace most of her drones in the meantime. But she's down to 26 workers to the 40 of Sylvanas. The income tab, especially with the help of mules, just shows how much further ahead Sylvanas already is. And you can also see it in the production line, how much Sylvanas can actually afford to the few things that Schnubiiii can do with her money, with the resources she is mining right now. Just tries to get up her macro as good as possible, wants to replace these drones, but it's just taking an awful lot of time that Sylvanas is just able to do whatever she wants. She just got her third base up. Schnubiiii knows about it because she has an overlord hanging over here. So yeah, she knows that her opponent has taken a third. She actually needed to do something right now, either try to deny that third base or just take a fourth base of her own, but she just can't. There's not really much she can do. She just tries to produce more Zerglings, maybe in order to move out and pressure her opponent. But yeah, like I said, I mean, even 12 Zerglings won't really help against that kind of force that Sylvanas is building up. With a siege tank in here, her force will actually just do nothing. So the only reasonable answer would be to take a fourth of her own, but like I said before, she just doesn't have the amount of money. I mean, she's still on 33 workers, and with 33 workers on 3 bases? It's just, I mean, what would you take a fourth base for? You wouldn't even be able to saturate it. At the time, you'd be able to finally produce drones for that fourth base. Your opponent would have just gathered enough units in order to kill it anyways. So yeah, that's just like a problematic situation here, where you just, whatever decision you make, it's probably the wrong one. And you actually need a little bit of luck in order to just get back into the game. Or just being totally badass risky trying to deal some damage. But yeah, there it is. Like I said, if Schnubiiii, for instance, had taken a fourth base over here, or even over here. I mean, over here the Banshees would have realized what it is. And now just nice little maneuver here. Sylvanas just getting all of Schnubiii's attention here with the 2 Banshees in the main base. Schnubiiii has just all of her army units out of position, just realized she can't do anything with these units against the Banshees anyways, so she just decides to go for a counter push, which actually might kinda work out, but of course at the same time we have a push of Sylvanas in at the front of Schnubiii's base anyways. Okay, just trying to get some depots up over here. The push of Schnubiiii getting into the third base, but there's just too many units around here. Schnubiiii just realizes that now the tank push is moving forward with the rest of the units, so she just pulls back all of her units from the push at the front. Don't really know if that's the best choice. At least some Lings get close to the first tank, might even be able to take it out. Yeah, at least get the first tank. Maybe even the second one is going to die against these roaches, but Sylvanas just picks it up right in the nick of time. Yeah, the Banshees are here as well. We finally have some Mutas out, but also some Stimp Marines here. So with the Mutas alone at these few ground forces, I don't think Schnubiiii really wants to engage here. But she's already 40 supply behind, producing a lot of Zerglings now here. I mean, if she actually managed... Oh, look at that blue line of Terran just getting moving forward. Liberators, tanks, all kinds of nasty siege of nasty siege units here. Okay, nice little move in here. Just getting on... Ooh, actually trying to get a good engagement here with the Lynx. Trying to surround everything. Maybe just getting with the Mutas in the back and sniping off a tank over here. But Sylvanas just too experienced in order to let that happen. Now even sieges her Liberators at the main ramp, so everything that goes down there gets killed in an instant, and Sylvanas just moves forwards with more and more Marines and more units coming in from behind, and Schnubiiii doesn't have another chance than giving up. GG's out, and Sylvanas takes the first game. Welcome to Overgrowth. To the bottom left we have our Terran Sylvanas, and to the top right our Zerg player Schnubiiii. So it seems as if it's only for Overlords and maybe Zerglings. So I think it's only the first two units, like the supply units, the Overlords and the Zerglings, and for Terran it seems to be only Marines. And I think for Protoss it's just Zealots or something that show up a bit weirdly in this overlay. Well, what can I say? Not much I can do right now, we just have to live with it. It's not really that dramatic. Schnubiiii already sending out her Overlord, her second Overlord. First Overlord is already on the way, flying towards that high ground position. Yeah, just wants to sneak in a little bit further in order to see whether the base has already been taken, which we can actually assume Sylvanas do, since she didn't go for a cheese. She will probably just go into her usual typical standard opening. There's already the refinery in the making, so she will be able to just get the resources in order to get a Reaper out once the barracks finishes. And then with another SUV she will move down and probably produce her command center down here, while Schnubiiii just takes the hatchery, but she already has the spawning pool and the extractor ready, so it seems as if she might want to get a little bit more aggressive this time around. Well, it's still only producing a few drones, but here are the first few Zerglings, so maybe this time around she actually just wants to punish Sylvanas for her typical greedy build, where she just gets the command center down here, and she might actually be able to succeed. I mean, we've talked about this again and again, that, I mean, every build you choose has some sort of weakness. There is just no build in StarCraft that actually has absolutely no weakness whatsoever. There's always a drawback to what you choose to do. And the drawback of this is, of course, that you're actually pretty vulnerable to early aggression if you send the Reaper out, which actually Sylvanas doesn't do. So I really wonder what she's realized. Okay, seems as if did she really use a scan here? Or how did she get that information? Did she get it with an SCV? I don't know. Well, at least she saw the early spawning pool at the extractor, so she knows what's going to happen. So this time around, actually, Schnubiiii won't be able to do that much. And usually if you want to do these pushes, you don't really want to run the typical path, because then you would just run into the Reaper, and the Reaper could just chase your early Zerglings away, or at least you would just force it back. But you normally want to avoid the Terran's Reaper by just using an alternative route and getting into the base, because you usually just want to kill the SCV building the command center over here. That's always the best thing you can do, and just gets it, barely gets it, but there's the SCV out here, and now we have the possibility at least to get another SCV over here. Bunker is ready, so the next few units just get inside here. There's not much that Schnubiiii can do from here on out. At least got two workers for just a reasonable amount of Zerglings here, but she still keeps producing. Channels her inner Suno Kazri here, so it seems as if Suno just actually taught Schnubiiii a little trick or two. Doesn't matter if she did it by watching Suno's games, or if Suno actually practiced with Schnubiiii, or if Schnubiiii just had the idea totally out of herself that she could actually just go for a Baneling bust, because Sylvanas has seemed to be a little bit weak to Baneling busts in a few of her games. So not many Banelings out though, that might cause actually a bit of a problem there. And a tank, is there a tank already out? No, that was just focus firing there, very nicely done by Sylvanas here. Yeah, Schnubiiii can't really deal much damage with orbital command. I mean, Sylvanas can always just lift it if need be, so every damage she just wastes actually to this building here will just cost her links because she has units firing at her. It seems as if she just wants to go in once more. Ugh, unfortunately just explodes one Baneling here by hand. Very unlucky there. But yeah, I mean, these two Banelings just won't do jack shit. I mean, maybe you just can move in and get another worker kill, but there are already too many Hellions out here in order to deal that much damage. The Baneling bust would have just needed to have way more Banelings crushing into the main base. But with these two, they might even get killed before they reach the wall. Yeah, and one Baneling alone will not kill any workers. And yeah, just get a big chunk of damage here, but that doesn't really help. Okay, more Zerglings just moving in, but the Hellions standing in a quite good position here. No full surround possible, but at least it seems as if Schnubiiii might actually just get two more Hellions out of it. Still, she's just playing too cost inefficiently here, producing more and more Zerglings, and the longer she keeps doing that, the more all-in she is. Now Sylvanas finally even has some units out that Schnubiiii can't even attack anymore. And the Liberators are already setting up the Liberation Zones, one above the own mineral line, so whatever moves in here just walks right into a death zone, and the other one just close by, so whenever the links just want to get in, they have to cross the first zone and then just have to stay inside the second one. Ooh, actually quite interesting choice here. I think it was really a better choice for Sylvanas to keep this above the mineral line, because the longer these units stay in here, the more damage they would get. Yeah, and finally these links get cleaned up with Schnubiiii not doing any damage whatsoever. And yeah, I mean, she's, like I said, she's totally on it. It still looks kind of okayish. It's 31 to 27 workers. So economy-wise, it seems okay maybe on first glance. But actually, it's really terrible for Schnubiiii right now. The situation, like I said, I mean, she was pretty all-in, but just didn't really succeed to do the game-ending damage, or just at least damage that would equal up anything. Because the problem is still, I mean, even if the worker count seems to be quite similar, Terran has mules, Terran has as many bases as Zerg. That's always a sign that a Zerg player is behind if they are on the same amount of bases. And of course the tech is so much better for Sylvanas. Sylvanas even having a third base up and just needs to fly it across the map in order to get it done. So even if Schnubiiii took a third base right now in order to keep up with the economy for her opponent, she would still be, well, actually behind, because as a Zerg player you don't want to have even bases, you want to have more. And yeah, I mean, her tech, she's just started a lair and doesn't even have any higher tech available right now. There's the Liberator already setting up a Liberation Zone. Obviously Sylvanas was already thinking that her opponent would probably have a third base, now realizing, oh wow, there is no third base. So I can actually just move into this base and maybe harass the drones over here if I can. Which she does right now while securing a third of her own. And yeah, so now Schnubiiii is just behind in everything possible. She has less workers, she has less bases, she has worse tech. There's just not much she can do right now. Just crossing fingers, maybe even taking bases, hoping for her opponent to just not attacking her for the next 3 minutes maybe, and then she might be able to just get in back into the game. Like I said, I mean, number-wise it still looks okayish, but don't let that fool you. The only thing that Schnubiiii just can produce from right on out is units, because she's very afraid that her opponent is probably going to attack her in just a few minutes, or maybe in a minute or two. So she just wants to have enough units out, and maybe she might even be able to crush these forces and just live a little bit longer. But as long as she keeps producing units, she will not be able to produce anything economy related. So her economy will be way behind, even more than it is right now. So in the long run, it just doesn't matter if she will be able to just fend off the first push. She just will never be able to fend off the second or the third, for that matter. If, of course, Sylvanas just doesn't do any grave mistakes here. or maybe forgets to expand for another 10 minutes or something like that, but I really doubt that's going to happen. So Sylvanas just going for the good old usual Terran play. Schnubiiii just realizes what's going on if she had a look at the minimap. Seems as if she didn't, because the army is not moving. She will realize now, only when the units have finally already get in position. So Widowmine's just burying. We'll probably get a good shot on these links. No, too quick there. Okay, so she does not really stay close to the Widowmines. Widowmine's getting a good connection with some drones over here. 9 drones dead in an instant. But at least she gets, well, some of the forces that were dropped into her main base. So that's at least one good trade for her. But losing 9 workers with already so low on, with already being so low in economy is of course something she didn't really want to have happened. But yeah, it happened anyways, and now she's even further back than she was before. Trying to get into Mutas, but with an economy that much in shambles, I mean, Mutas are not really worthwhile. There's only 300 gas there anyway, so she will only be able to like produce 3 Mutas at once the Spire pops. There's already the second, well, actually this is the first push. I mean, the medevac harassment was only that harassment, and now it's coming back. Trying to just get some more drone skills, getting a little bit more value out of these units. Might even be able to do so. And then just load back into the mech. Nope, needs to get away. And now it's empty, but of course Schnubiiii can't really be certain of that. So she will still have to account for a medevac drop that might come into her base. But yeah, there is the first push I was talking about. So let's see if Schnubiiii will even be able to clear that one up. Ooh, if she loses the 3rd base, this game is over. I mean, she can definitely GG out once this base dies. And it seems as if she will not even be able to hold that first push. Anyways, GG, and Sylvanas takes the 2nd game. Newkirk Precinct is our 3rd map. We have Sylvanas, our Terran player, to the right, and Schnubiiii, our Zerg player, to the left. Schnubiiii has to win 3 in a row in order to take this best of 5, a really difficult task to do, especially against a solid Terran player like Sylvanas. So Sylvanas will probably not surprise us this time around, no cheese. Would have been interesting to see some sort of proxy going down here where Koshki just did her 4-gate. But none of that is going to happen. Overlords flying across the map in their slow speed. While the refinery and the barracks are going down. Woo! Such unexpected build. And we're going to see another Reaper checking the opponent's base, while Schnubiiii just goes into the typical Zerg build. No early pool pressure this time around. So she already gets herself into the defender's position. If you don't really have the aggressive potential to send some links early on across the map, it will always be the Reaper that dictates the game. You usually just want to keep some units at home in order to help defend your drones against that Reaper. So usually you will not really be able to just send some units across the map in order to harass the base that's probably going down. But yeah, that's actually part of the sense. I mean, this Reaper actually has a lot of duties, we can say. One duty is, of course, to gather information. Another duty is to harass the opponent's mineral line. But the other duty is, of course, that it's supposed to keep the opponent back, to pin the opponent back inside their own main base and their natural base, so they won't be able to actually send units across towards your position in order to harass you. So a lot of things that this Reaper can do or should do, and in the hands of a capable player is actually able to do so. So yeah, this is Sylvanas now just trying to deal some damage over here. Doesn't really want to get too far onto creep and maybe get surrounded by a few lings. Yeah, it also forces a few lings as well, most of the time, because the queen will usually not be ready once the Reaper hops in, so you just need at least 2 to 3 Zerglings in order to keep it off of 4. You can actually only produce them in pairs, which just costs lava, it costs minerals, and then you just have these units that also are not really that valuable, because once you try to send them across the map directly, you usually just run them into the Reaper, and so the Reaper can just also kill them, maybe moving around, just trying to distract them from running towards the natural entrance or whatever. So if you really want to make use of them, most of the time you would just have to send them around a pathway that a Terran would usually not check with their Reaper. And once you arrive at the natural base, it's oftentimes much too late and the wall is already sealed, so not much you can do with these units. So yeah, you're on the defender's position, usually, if you do the usual opening with hatch first into gas into pool, and you will only be able to actually pressure your opponent a little bit later into the game. And you actually have to wait for a really good opportunity. I mean, sometimes you can just go all in and baneling bust your opponent, of course, if you just realize the wall is weak. But for that, of course, you would need to scout the wall more often in order to just see whether it's possible or not. But yeah, if you don't, and if you go into an early third, you usually just are glad to take the defender's role in this matchup, letting the Terran pressure you over and over again, and trying to defend as good as possible while teching into the desired tech and the desired army composition. And once you get there, you then finally try to overwhelm your Terran opponent. So, Sylvanas just coming in with the same good old push here, having some Hellions, having a Reaper, the first starting Reaper in the mix as well, trying to deal some damage, maybe even some economic harassment if drones had already been pulled over to that third base location, but they haven't, so not much that can be done right now. And the Banshee follow-up once more. Seems as if Sylvanas just has seen that this opening worked kinda okayish against her opponent, and we even have the Hellbat transition here. So now once the units move in, and it would only be Zerglings, or it was only Zerglings, this push could actually cause a lot of trouble here, but it's only Hellbats against mostly Roach-based army, since Schnubiiii goes into Roaches pretty often in her ZvTs. So let's see, I mean the Banshee could still be a problem if the Banshee just joins the main army, which it does right now. Okay, Overlord just flying into the Marines, a little bit unfortunate for her. So yeah, I mean, these Hellbats are actually not that good against the Roaches, of course. They are still okay-ish, I mean, better than Hellions, of course. But the Banshee is, of course, dealing a lot of damage right from behind. And she needs to be careful. I mean, more Banshees in production, and Cloak is also has also now finished. Again, there's just no detection here whatsoever. The lair is finished, so she could just morph some Overlords into Overseers. Seems as if Sylvanas just wants to retreat for now, has probably... No, she hasn't actually gotten a third base right behind it. There it is. Okay, she's already in production, and more barracks incoming as well. Yeah, just wants to switch into bioplay now, into full bioplay, just wants to get out as many Marines and Marauders as possible. Has probably just mismacroed a little bit while attacking at the front with that small force of Hellbats and Banshees. And now Schnubiiii is actually moving out. Does she have roach speed? She does. So nicely done there. So in the meantime, a little bit of an anti-timing here. The Banshee's just moving forwards into the main base. There's only one Spore Crawler, which can actually be taken out by 2 Banshees pretty easily. There's also a Queen, but of course once the Spore Crawler is out, the Queen won't be able to see those Banshees. So let's see how much damage they will be able to deal, and how Schnubiiii can actually deal with the pressure over here. That's actually not much to keep these Roaches from getting into the natural base. Yeah, they are Widow Mines, but they can only shoot once. And the rest of the units here, the rest of the firepower that's here, it's actually not that big. So, woo! I just thought for a moment that Schnubiiii would like to retreat completely. Sylvanas realizes what's up and that she's going to need those Banshees desperately. So she just moves back. Of course, again, the biggest problem that Schnubiiii doesn't have any detection, but more important, she doesn't have any anti-air. So she won't really be able to kill off these units. They can just keep shooting at her. And now Schnubiiii just has to decide what to do. Does she really want to move in? Well, she just threatened to do it for a moment here, so Sylvanas had to just pull a lot of SCV, so at least a little bit of indirect economical damage has been dealt. But yeah, the biggest problem is that Schnubiiii didn't really retreat completely, and the Banshees are still dealing damage to that army force. Yeah, now she has Overseers. The cloak has... no, the cloak hasn't even been... turned on yet, because Sylvanas just knows there's nothing that can shoot her. And finally Schnubiii's push comes in, but it's a little bit too late. By now a siege tank has been produced, and another one as well, so Schnubiiii will not be able to break this. Unfortunately, just wasted a lot of resources into a push that never really happened, or actually just happened too late. I feel that she just should have moved in the first time she went up that ramp. But then again, it's easy to make that call if you are the observer and you're trying to make the call in hindsight. But yeah, Schnubiiii just walked in, saw the bunkers, saw the widow mines, saw the units, didn't really know if she could move in, just hesitated, tried to get more units to the front. Once she started to get in, the Banshees were there. She moved back, wanted to wait for the observers to move in, but then when she went in, the tank was already done. Yeah, and now, I mean, she's again on equal basis. Worker-wise, it looks better than last game, 60 to 56. But again, I think the tech is just the problem. We have a lair, but oh, we actually have a spire, so never mind. That could just help out a little bit, but she needs to take a fourth base pretty soon here. And she does. So, like I said, she's not out of the game yet. I still think she could have just done way more damage without losing so much army for just almost nothing here. So the biggest problem for her, of course, will be the first initial push that's going to head her way, which is right now. Sylvanas has 3 tanks, widow mines, and a lot of bio forces in it. And I really feel that especially the bio force in combination with the 3 tanks will be problematic. I mean, if Schnubiiii just catches this army off guard and might be able to just destroy the tanks before they can siege up, she might be able to do the trick. And I think she needs way more Ravagers in her own army in order to deal with this force. But since tanks don't do additional damage to Ravagers, but they do additional damage to Roaches. So let's see. I mean, there's the push. Schnubiiii just retreated a little bit with most of her units. Sylvanas is just carefully setting up her fortified position here at Schnubiii's front, and will probably easily be able to take out that base over here. It's probably going to, yeah, it's lost already. So Schnubiiii already transfers the units, now wants to move in, but yeah, you don't really want to get your Roaches into a fully sieged up tank line of 4 tanks here. Even if she's able to clear off these siege tanks, the remaining bio force will just shred through everything. Finally, the Mutas join the fray, but they are too late. And Schnubiiii has to tap out. Sylvanas takes the series 3-0.